really got away with Monster's best friend.
You think so? You'll be a great pet owner.
So Snow White's live-action drama hasn't even cooled off yet, and Disney is already moving full speed ahead, dropping news about not one, but two new music-filled comedy series coming in 2025 to Disney Channel and Disney+. One of them? Yep, it's Vampirina. And judging by the name, you guessed it, we're focusing on the live-action Vampirina today. So, let's jump right in. Now, if the name rings a bell, that's probably because Vampirina isn't totally new. It's actually based on a series of children's books written by Anne-Marie Pace, and it was turned into an animated show on Disney Junior by Chris Nee. That version was super popular with younger kids. Cute animation, catchy songs, and a lot of heart. But this time around, Disney is taking it live action. The new Vampirina show is centered around a young vampire girl named V. She's just your average kid, except, she's undead. V leaves her spooky hometown of Transylvania to attend a performing arts boarding school where she can chase her dream of becoming a music star. Sounds like fun, right? Except there's a twist. V has to keep her vampire identity under wraps. That's tricky enough on its own, but things get even more complicated because her super overprotective dad decides to send a ghost to school with her. Not just any ghost though, this one is very enthusiastic about the job. So between keeping her secret, managing school life, and trying to break into music, V's got a full plate. Even though the Vampirina reboot is still using that title as a working name, they've already lined up a fresh young cast. Kenzi Richardson is stepping up into the lead role as V, and she's joined by Jiwon Lee, who you might know from Rise Up, Sing Out, playing Sophie. There's also Sean Dixon from The Neighborhood as Elijah, Milo Maharlika, who's been on the Broadway tour of Les Miserables as Demi, and Faith Hedley, who toured with The Lion King playing Brittany. So there's definitely some serious talent in the mix, even if some of the names are brand new. Behind the scenes, the show has a solid team running the show. Randy Barnes is the showrunner and executive producer. If you've seen any of her previous work, you know she gets how to mix comedy with heart. Tim Federle and Bronwyn North-Reist are also on board as executive producers. Plus, the pilot episode was directed by Kimberly McCullough, who also executive produced. That's a lot of experienced hands shaping the series. Now, while Vampirina is all about secrets, music, and ghosts, the other series Disney announced takes a totally different route. It's called How We Became the Biggest Band in the World. Again, that's a working title for now. This show follows three girls who are part of a mega popular band called Electric Bloom. But instead of just focusing on their fame, the series takes a step back and tells the story of how they got there. It starts all the way back in middle school when the girls first met and follows their journey to becoming not only music stars, but also best friends for life. So it's got that mix of nostalgia, friendship, and rising to stardom vibes, kind of like if the Beatles' Get Back had been made for a tween audience. And while it's clearly meant to be fun and upbeat, it also looks like it'll explore what it takes to stay grounded and connected when fame comes into the picture. The cast for that one includes Lumi Pollack, who was in The Fallout as Posey, and two newcomers, Carmen Sanchez as Jade and Ruby Marino as Tulip. Nathaniel Boucher, who appeared in Circuit Breakers, rounds out the main group as Lucas. And just like Vampirina, the show's creative team is pretty stacked too. Eric Friedman is serving as the showrunner and executive producer, and he's joined by writers and exec producers Alex Fox and Rachel Lewis. Music legend Diane Warren, yep, that Diane Warren, is also an executive producer and wrote the songs for the pilot. Bahare Batmang is involved too, and the pilot was directed and executive produced by Jody Hahn. When Disney announced these two shows, Io Davis, president of Disney Branded Television, had nothing but praise. She said both Vampirina and How We Became the Biggest Band in the World are standout additions to Disney Channel's comedy lineup, and she made it clear that these shows are designed to hit all the right notes with young audiences, fun characters they can look up to, catchy music, and stories full of laughs, friendship, and heart. So even though we're still waiting to see how the Snow White situation plays out, Disney's already turning the page and bringing in fresh stories with new faces. And honestly, with a mix of music, fun plots, and diverse casts, both of these shows seem like they could hit big with the next generation. If Disney really wants to make Vampirina a hit in live-action form, then it might be time for a bit of a rethink, especially when it comes to the core premise and tone. Because let's be honest, a lot of their recent attempts to modernize classics or push certain agendas haven't exactly landed with fans. The live-action Snow White is the perfect example. It tried to change so much of the original that it lost what people actually loved about it in the first place. Characters were reworked beyond recognition, the themes got muddled, and it felt more like a lecture than a fairy tale. So with Vampirina, Disney has a real chance to course correct, but only if they're willing to focus on story and character first instead of forcing modern political messaging into every scene. The animated version of Vampirina actually had a really solid, charming setup. It followed V. Hedley, a young vampire girl who moves from Transylvania to Pennsylvania with her family. They open a spooky little bed and breakfast called the Scare B&B, catering to all kinds of supernatural creatures: vampires, goblins, ghouls, you name it. Meanwhile, V is just trying to fit in at a regular human school without letting anyone know her monster identity. It's a cute fish-out-of-water story with a lot of potential, but if Disney wants to make it work in live action, they need to lean into what made the original special without turning it into another overcorrected message-first show. Kids don't need to be preached at. They want fun, adventure, and relatable characters who feel real. So maybe instead of using Vampirina as a platform for buzzwords or tokenism, Disney could go back into basics and build something heartfelt and funny that still holds up for today's audience. For starters, let's keep the Scare B&B. That whole setting is such a fun concept, and it could be a goldmine for episodes. Imagine different monster guests coming through every week, each with their own quirky habits, traditions, or problems that V has to solve. That opens the door for some creative creature design, fun world building, and episodic storytelling that keeps things fresh without needing to reinvent the wheel. And best of all, it's a concept that can naturally bring in themes like tolerance and understanding without forcing it. In the end, Disney's best shot at turning Vampirina into a successful live-action series is to trust the original idea and build on it. Not everything needs to be updated with a checklist of current social talking points. Sometimes the best stories are the ones that focus on friendship, family, and finding your place in the world, whether you're a vampire or just a kid trying to fit in. And that's a wrap for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.